This region around the Great Lakes has been called the heartland. When it comes to agriculture, there's hardly an area in the world that compares.
Everybody, just hold on. I don't know what we're going to have here.
That's what brings the viewers back. That a boy.
Manage money, piling in.
Double digits higher.
So at this point, we're in kind of uncharted territory.
There's a lot of money on the sidelines.
So that was a crazy one.
Good morning, everybody. It's Wednesday, June 18th, and this is the AgYield War Room. I'm Dan Dempsey, and I'll be moderating today's session. As always, if you got any questions or comments, please feel free to drop us a line in the chat area. I'll be sure to get to it during the show. Overnight markets here, July corn down a half at 4.31. July soybeans were down a penny and 3/4 at 10.72 1/4. And July Chicago wheat was up 3 at 5.52. No export sales announcements here this morning, so we'll jump right in. I guess what we know this morning, we've talked about it for the last week or so, but continuing escalations there, more bombs, direct bombs overnight between Israel and Iran. I know the Security Council met yesterday and no decision. They haven't announced anything yet. Obviously, you tend to know after the fact, but we'll see what the response will be. I know everybody's going back and forth on it, but certainly the outside markets are watching closely. It appears that, we've got a hot weather pattern coming through, kind of the upper Midwest. There's chances for rain mixed in as well, but we'll have to see. I mean, it appears like it could be getting a little bit drier in the 14 to 28 day. We were just talking about that before the show. And then we will not have markets tomorrow. So we're going to take a little midweek pause, and then everything will resume there on Friday. So I guess with that, guys, why don't we jump right in? I do have to give a shout out to Jack. That new intro is pretty awesome. He did a nice job on that. So very, very good work there, Jack. But anyway, Justin, let's jump in. I mean, what are your thoughts here? I know we got a lot going on. We're zigging and zagging here.
Yeah, been making the comment with, fellow traders and just industry people that, for all the things that are going on, how calm these markets are. Volatility is relatively low. Even soybean oil, you had a major announcement. You had the biggest 2-day rally in history, and then it just kind of flatlines. So I think we're getting kind of comfortably numb in our markets with all the different wars going on and conflicts and major policy potential changes and currency moves. Dustin did a good job talking about, the real and the dollar. I think there's a lot of moving parts here, and, going into potentially not potentially, but just going into the heart of the growing season. I just think, I'm just kind of shocked at how, complacent the market is right now, I guess I would say. And I'm not saying it's mispriced. I just think usually you would have much bigger moves. Even like when we were, when Israel was attacking Iran to start, those moves would be, $20 crude moves, not $4, crude oil moves. So I just think there's a complacency in the market. We've been in I don't know if it's algo trading that, just systematically tries to keep things, tame, with option trading and stuff, or what the cause is, but certainly not the kind of moves that we'd be used to seeing in this environment, in my opinion.
Yeah, Ben, what's on your mind this morning?
Just looking at stepping back and looking at a 10,000 foot view with a year where we're going to have tight global supplies, the willingness to take corn well below the cost of production for a lot of people seems to be somewhat misguided. I know that we rallied in February to incent some of that, but it was marginal at best, I think. So, I think it's a big risk that they're taking on over the next, call it 2 to 6 weeks. Certainly, I think there's an expectation that we're going to find more stocks in the quarterly stocks report from the way the spreads have acted. And there's a proclivity to think that maybe we're going to find a few more corn acres. You couple that with Safrinha harvest, where they've had a really good year. I just think there's a little bit of a disinterest in these markets until the point where there is some interest. If you look at month over month, there was an additional 60,000 shorts added in corn, and December corn is basically unchanged from that. So there has been some buying here. We're still in a box, right? We try to push below 40 and hang on, and we kind of gravitate back up. And so maybe we found an area at least to base from for a little bit, but ultimately it'll be decided by weather over the next few weeks. I think we've traded the idea that there's going to be maybe some more stocks, and I think I don't really know how much you can gain on acres when you started the number that we started from 95ish. So we'll see.
Yeah, interesting, Ben. Kind of thinking about this a lot, but it feels like a lot of people got sold's not the right thing, but kind of convinced of the old crop tightness, story in corn. So it feels like people got coverage, whether it's traders, commercials, end users, and kind of got burnt on that, still getting burnt on that going into first notice day. And it feels like that's maybe added to some of the disinterest in new crop corn too.
Yeah.
Kind of like, well, if old crop corn can't be any good, like how can corn be any good at all? It feels like we're very hand to mouth now, and it's kind of gone maybe the other way. After, it was well advertised how tight corn would be, for, 6 months ago, call it, now here
Corn
we are
did everything, and corn continued to do all the things that it was supposed to do in order to be tight, right? Great exports every week. We haven't seen really any cancellations to speak of.
Right.
Yeah,
ethanol demand is good.
Yeah, fundamentally, corn has done its job to keep demand rolling. I mean, I remember 5-6 months ago, we were talking about possibly demand being front loaded, and it's been very consistent. It's been to multiple trading partners around the world. People need corn. I think one of the things that we may be overlooking in South America is how tight they were and how much of that corn that's being harvested has to find a home down there. So I think the next 2 to 5 weeks, we're going to see some volatility pick up. Old adage from an old floor trader is corn weather doesn't mean anything until you get to pollination, and you can do with that what you want. But the volatility can change on a dime in these markets, and that's classic grain market trade. So be careful with that.
Yeah, I mean, we're just getting to the point where corn actually needs water or uses water, right? So it'll be interesting.
Frustrating. We haven't heard much on the trade, the trade front. It's like our news cycle has completely shifted, and it's
just one thing to the next, and that's all it's about, Yep.
That's frustrating. Dustin, what's on your mind?
I think it's pretty well covered right now. I mean, we've got a gap higher in oil. We've had, $11 plus move, $12 plus move in the last 2 weeks in crude oil as well, helping to drive that on top of the RVO guidance. So I think the market, you forget how fast, things can shift when funds have, fairly neutral being position. They're slightly net long. They had reduced their soybean oil length going into that last rally, so that there's a little bit more powder dry. I imagine they added to it. We'll see on the next COT report. But I think there's some pretty bullish things that have happened recently, and the market's still trying to catch its breath, trying to figure out what that means. So we'll see if that gets any legs to it. But I would say give it a few days and see where it goes.
Very good. Right, let's talk a little bit about livestock. There's quite a bit of room. There's been rumors and discussions throughout the day trade about these. What's ICE going to do with some of these facilities, and it looked like yesterday that back and forth really kind of got into the livestock markets, and I say it got into hogs as well. I mean, a strong start early, and it kind of tapered off towards the end of the day as things were heating up on those discussions. So I guess maybe give us a little insight into what you're hearing on that front.
Yeah, there was a little bit of back and forth about these ice raids at packing facilities and if this is going to be a regular occurrence or if this is just there was just a one-off. Like it's really hard to say. And I mean, more will be known down the road. It just feels like the last time that was in the news cycle, we sold off big. I think people were thinking that that has something to do with it, but realistically, it just seemed like we saw a little bit of liquidation. It wasn't heavy liquidation. It was only about 1,400 contracts. But we did see the weakness on the board kind of spark some lower light sales in Kansas, 229. So, I mean, like it's not much yet, but it's still $6 lower. And I think it just goes to add that there's a lot of concern in the market here, just waiting for this thing to top, so we see these really violent moves down, and as in the past they've managed to kind of climb back up, but now with the kills coming down, there's a lot more concern that the Packers trying to get more leverage over the producer here. So it's just kind of an interesting time. I think everybody just is kind of stepping back a little bit, seeing how this works. But overall, Choice new highs for the move, record highs. Choice up to 386.51. I mean, that's up $4. Select was up $5. So I mean, we've got a parabolic beef move right now. So Packers are able to get cash a little bit cheaper here. Their margins are going to start to improve. And as we see, there is a lower price structure over the next several months as the board goes on. So I think just everybody's looking at it with fresh eyes when these big breaks really happen. But we're at some crucial levels of support right at the 40-day moving average, close below the 20 days. So some of the technicals are turning over, and we kind of have to hold here, I think, to prove out for right now. But overall, we've got a big discount kind of priced in. Seems like we could probably just start to level off, find some support here. But all eyes are on cash right now and on the cattle on feed report that's going to be here on Friday. On the hog side of things, just kind of quiet trade. I mean, it looked like we got some spillover selling from the live cattle market, but overall the fundamentals are still really strong. It's just probably why we didn't just completely fall out of bed here. But I mean, cash was up another $3. Carcass was knocking on the door of 120. Bellies were lower, but overall it just kind of seemed like that the news is really strong. Demand is firm, and obviously futures are getting into that point where I'm sure some of the longs are saying we can take some profit here pretty comfortably. But overall, it just feels like we're in a good old-fashioned summer demand market, and the sky's the limit right now. I just think that for the producer side of things, you've got really good margins out forward, and it's definitely a situation to be taken advantage of. Not to sound like a broken record.
No, you never sound like a broken record.
Thank
you. Real quick here, guys, we had a question come in before we wrap. James Costello here. I know we've talked about it a number of times, but I guess, Justin, if they put a gun to your head, what's your overall opinion of stocks number come end of the month? I mean, the way the market's
well, I mean, you would say the way July contract's acting, the way May contract, that stocks will go up. I mean, that's certainly the way it's trading, the way it's feeling. We'll see. So you could, I would attribute that to, probably a bigger crop last year than the USDA has written down, because we've seen good demands, we've seen good disappearance. So I don't think it's on the demand side of the equation. Obviously, you've got record cattle prices, and so all the sectors are making money, and I think demand's probably stronger than we have written down even. So if stocks do come in higher, which Dustin's written about, I mean, we have close to pipeline type stock number, and the spreads suck, and basis levels are weak in the West, decent in the East, but the way the spread acts, you would think that stocks will be up on the report. So
very good. Appreciate the questions there, guys. As always, if you've got anything on your mind, feel free to chime in. We always like to visit with folks there. So anyway, a couple things to point out. We're going to have a Fed decision 1:00 Central today. Not expecting anything in the way of a rate change. They're expected to hold steady. However, the post-meeting comments, I think, are being closely watched to see what Powell's forward guidance looks like and what his overall opinions are. So we'll be looking at that 1:00 Central today. Also, markets are closed tomorrow, so we'll get a day break there. They will reopen at 7:00 tomorrow night, so they will fire back up and then go into Friday. Export sales will be delayed to Friday, so we'll have those numbers out when we come back on Friday morning. We appreciate everybody that tunes in on a daily basis. If you wouldn't mind, throw us a like and certainly subscribe. Doesn't cost you anything to do so. It'll keep you up to speed on everything that's going on with AgYield. So again, thanks to everybody that supports the show. We're doing this live every day that the markets are open on X, Facebook Live, and YouTube Live at 8:15 Central Time. Again, markets close tomorrow. We'll be back on Friday. Everybody have a great day.
The War Room is proudly presented by AgYield. For over 50 years, the AgYield team has provided grain marketing and risk management solutions for growers across the country. Our veteran consultants harness cutting-edge technologies to pinpoint risk, optimize market performance, and protect your farm's profitability. Discover a new approach to farm revenue management at agyield.com.
Hey guys, Jack here. Be sure to support the show by hitting the like button, leaving us a comment, and subscribing to the channel for all the latest updates. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.